pretty weak. In fact, as you are talking, there have been huge volume sales on both Bharti and Idea. These were the two counters that I could look at, and I found that there is a lot of selling coming in. Bharti already at 297. Now if it breaks to a 96, then the next support would be around 291, and of course it is coming closer to the major support zone between say 287 and 280. But in this kind of an environment where the overall market is not supporting, if any adverse developments, any news that would be negatively received by the market, and a stock is likely to be hammered. So that is the case with Bharti. If you look at the last few minutes of trading, there was a sharp fall and huge volume. So this suggests that the stock is getting weaker, and we are actually coming to a close when this heavy volume trades are happening. So that means people are not willing to take this home.
Okay, we've got Gautam Sinha Roy also with us. Gautam, what are you making out? What's been happening overall in the markets and the underlying sentiment?
I think clearly the sentiments are turning towards negative now, and we'll have to be careful with our bets, probably focus more on defensive large cap areas. And given that the rupee is also weak, maybe IT and pharma would be sectors in which we could be long. And domestic facing defensive sectors could be like pharma, and consumer could be other sectors where we could focus on. But clearly, global perspective, local perspective, things are taking a turn for the negative now.
Okay, but you wouldn't sell as yet. Would you start emptying the portfolio?
Maybe if we have a few rate sensitives where we are in profits, it could be a good idea to take some money off the table. But I don't think this is a good time to create fresh shorts, clearly. We'll have to wait for the political issue to pan out how it looks, a couple of days down the line before we take a fresh look at whether we should create short positions or not.
Okay. Rajat, let's get down to some ideas. If at all anything right now looks like something you can put your money to, is there anything that is worth the buy?
As I said, the cigarette maker is a good hedging candidate. You can buy, provided you are actually hedging it. If it is your main position, then you should be hedging it with some short position. Maybe that is in the index that you might think about. So as I said, that 302 to about 299 is a major support area for ITC. So if you buy here, you put your stop wherever you are comfortable, anywhere between 302 or 299, or if you want to stretch it further below 299, and then looking at levels like 310 to about 313, and if 313 is crossed, then you can expect ITC to move up further. And as I also said, that Sun Pharma at dips, that can also be purchased, but definitely do have a hedge position. In this case, if the Nifty were to close below 5760 in the spot market, then a futures short position may be warranted, where you would have to take a somewhat a straight stop loss of about above 5840 in the spot market, and looking at levels below say 5700, it could be 5770 to about 5760, sorry 5670 to about 5660 would be your target area for the Nifty short position.
Okay, what about HCL Tech, Raj? We were talking about a new high for the counter. You don't have too many touch points to go back to and see where it will face that headway, but looks like that 800 mark itself is proving to be a tough one to actually hold on to.
See, HCL Tech had been showing great momentum. It was showing enormous strength, but at some point in time you will show some kind of a top, and after that there would be a sell-off. And today, I suppose, if you look at the intraday chart, it was a steady fall, and that fall was supported also by volume activity. So my feeling is that probably HCL Tech has a short-term top, and it is likely to come down to something like 770 to about 760 kind of range, where it might actually consolidate. And then if it can break out above 785 once again, then we can expect further upswing. Otherwise, it might actually consolidate at lower levels. The pattern on the daily on the intraday chart is clearly negative, and after the close of the session, the end of day chart will also turn out to be a one-day bar reversal kind of a scenario.
Okay, got that. You've got a few ideas, Gautam. You want to run us through them? Some specific sectors, yeah?
Yeah, on the long side, we'd continue to prefer IT and pharma. Maybe Infosys within that, because we still see that there is some valuation gap between Infosys and now the sector leaders in terms of valuation, which is TCS. And we expect that discretionary demand should pick up in FY14, which should benefit Infosys disproportionately. So that's one idea on the IT side. Another one that we like is Tech Mahindra. Valuations are cheap, and demand momentum there is also very strong. So those are two ideas that we have on the IT side. On the pharma side, I think we'll stick to Lupin even now, because although the stock is doing well, but we think the growth momentum there is also accelerating in terms of forward EPS estimates. They should grow pretty fast, and we think the stock price would reflect that too. So those are the few ideas that we'd like to highlight.
Yeah. We've got with us Mr. H.P. Ranina. He's joining us on the phone line right now to make sense of this development with regard to most of the telecom players and what the 2G court has given out as hearing, summoning Sunil Bharti Mittal and some other officials of Vodafone as well as Sterling. Mr. Ranina, what's your initial take on this? A definite reputational setback for most of them, with big wigs like Sunil Bharti Mittal's name being pulled into it.
Yes, of course, it's a reputational problem for these companies. But the point to notice is that the court must have found some prima facie evidence in the charge sheet, and that is why they think it's necessary to call them to investigate, to ask them questions. It doesn't mean that they are guilty. It only means that the court will now proceed in the matter to make sure that they are not involved in the scam. So really, if the Bharti group feels that they have not done anything wrong, then there should be no difficulty in appearing before the court and giving their point of view to show that they have acted according to the laws and regulations, and there is nothing untoward which has been done by them.
The charge sheet had booked them under criminal conspiracy under provisions of the Prevention of Corruption Act. I mean, is that something that you would probably look at it in a more detrimental fashion under which they've been charged?
Yes, it's a very serious charge. Criminal conspiracy, of course, is a very serious charge under the Prevention of Corruption Act. But then it's all a matter of evidence. I mean, ultimately they will have to establish, the prosecution will have to establish that the charge that they've made is sustainable and valid in law. So naturally now Bharti will defend itself to the best of its ability, which I'm sure they will. And let's see how it pans out in the next few weeks.
So far, how would you read into the proceedings? I mean, once they've started off, I mean, for members present and who asked to be summoned, is this looking like that could turn into something really big, or right now it's just purely evidence that matters?
Well, just now it's... Hello?
Yeah, Mr. Rina, go ahead.
Well, just now it's pure evidence, but that evidence itself may lead to various issues, because there will be cross-examination. Also, the Bharti will be able to cross-examine the witnesses produced by the prosecution, and therefore a lot of new evidence is going to come out in the public domain once the trial begins. So I think really we'll have to wait and watch how much more information comes into the public domain and see to what extent they have been involved.
Is this going to be even more detrimental to the sector as a whole, considering it's already reeling under a lot of problems and now more and more dirty linen is coming out?
Yes, I think so. I think you never know, this may be just a tip of the iceberg, so we don't know how it's going to emerge. Certainly we'll wait and watch. A lot of issues will come out, and obviously people who are involved will try to defend themselves, and when they defend themselves they'll bring out a lot of facts. So really I think it's something which is causing grave serious concern to the market, and there's a certain justification for the nervousness.
Okay, got that, Mr. Reena. Thanks very much for joining in. Really appreciate the time, sir, for putting that into perspective. So things could get a little sticky around there. Obviously Bharti and the others are going to try to defend themselves in the same. But for now, That's what we got. Evidence is what matters right now in the 2G court summon that they've got. Sunil Bharti Mittal being summoned by the 2G court. The stock's down 6.5%, recovered a little bit. We'll come right back, take that break and come right back. We're sticking to Bharti Airtel, and the stock price performance is worsened right now. Little bit of a recovery from the lowest point, but still down 5%. Gopal Jain, senior lawyer of the Supreme Court, joins us on the phone line right now. Mr. Jain, your initial comments on what's happened with the 2G court summoning the likes of Sunil Bharti Mittal, Mr. Ruia, as well as Mr. Ghosh?
Well, I think it's unfortunate that this has happened for the simple reason that many of these people were really the pioneers who built the telecom sector. And I have sort of seen the sector over the last 12 to 13 years. And honestly, to compare the present situation with the then situation is comparing two incomparables, two different regimes. This seems to be obviously, there is a political angle to it that when you look at a decision of the present government, your first reaction is, okay, let me deflect attention and go back to an earlier decision in regime, when several of those allocations were defended by government themselves, saying that, this is in accordance with the norms and policies and guidelines which the government had framed. So I think it only creates more uncertainty, and it only puts the telecom sector on a further downward trend.
All right. Just one aspect. On the 8th of March, you had the Supreme Court pulling up the CBI, saying that they're only blaming government servants and they've not pulled up anybody from the corporate sector. From the 8th of March to the 19th of March, where we are, and at that time, the CBI had said that they've not been able to accumulate substantial proof against corporates. So much has changed so as to get all these three accused?
Yes, that's exactly the fact that, if in the investigation there was no material, then what was the sudden change in circumstances between 8th and 19th? I mean, these are all the questions which really come up for discussion, debate and deliberation. And it also shows that therefore the system is, not as solid and cast iron and foolproof as it should have been. This kind of uncertainty can come up without any change in circumstance. Please see the consequence for any individual. If there is nothing called finality in anybody's life, anything can be opened or reopened at any stage. What is the basis for that? What was the material? How did it change? So it throws up more questions than answers.
And this is definitely more important because it's a significant charge of conspiracy. So that could work really against these companies if at all anything is found.
Well, we'll have to examine the order before commenting on that aspect of the case, that why the summons were issued and what are the reasons which are given. But like I said, that if the decisions of allocating spectrum itself were in consonance with the government policy and norms, and they were challenged and they have stood the test of legal scrutiny as well, then suddenly to say that there was something wrong in it, I think requires greater examination, a more detailed deliberation after we have the order.
Right. Mr. Jain, thanks very much for those quick comments and your quick perspective on that. So a little bit, of haziness with regards to clarity on how this proof has been accumulated, when just at the 8th of March, the CBI said that they did not have any proof against corporates, and suddenly in a matter of 10-11 days, they've managed to accuse and, summon the likes of Sunil Bharti Mittal, Mr. Ghosh, as well as Mr. Ravi Ruia out there. Stock has recovered 4.5% higher. Gautam, anything else within the broader markets that you are looking at right now, not just the large caps? And also if you could comment on, what's been happening right now with regards to the political uncertainty and the impression that this would build about for foreign investors looking to invest in India as a destination.
Yes, anyways, we were stepping into election year. So this just adds to the chaos that would have ensued anyways on the political front. So one will have to tread very cautiously going forward to ascertain whether the political situation warrants an election, or what sort of new events come up within that. So that creates a lot of confusion and uncertainty in investors' mind, which is never good. So I think one will have to be cautious and stick with more defensive names, or the exporting sectors like IT and pharma, because there the impact would be minimal of these broader domestic issues. And having said that, the fresh issues in Europe are also worrying global markets across asset classes. So that will also have a bearing on valuations and how the Indian market and stocks within that pan out. So beyond large caps, one will have now to be very careful about mid caps and be investing only in select ones, because obviously mid caps in an uncertain environment can be impacted much more. On the positive side, obviously we have the repo cut which has come in. So hopefully if the transmission happens, we have seen 50 bips of cut this year already in the first 3 months. So if there is a transmission through the system, that could be a positive, but we'll have to wait for that really to happen.
Okay, got that. Gautam, thanks very much for joining and appreciate the time. Rajat, one last word from you as well on the carnage in the mid-cap space. February itself was a month of complete devastation.